Okay, so we're talking again about how do we reduce the size of a PDF of a panel. Maybe you have so many images and you need to reduce either some of the images or the PDF using Adobe Acrobat. To reduce all the images, you can take a look, as I was saying, to all of the images that are inside of your panel. In my case, I did a package, and then I have all of the images, and here you can see the size. So a large size is like when you can detect there's a very heavy one, such as a bigger than, again, 20 megs. Bigger than 100 is clearly not something you want. Bigger than 20 megs is already like a too large. Also, it depends on how big is in your panel. So if the image is actually very big, you might want to keep it a high resolution and therefore a heavy image. But if you have one of these an image like this, very small, okay, very small, you can definitely reduce the resolution of that image. It's not worth having it at high resolution. So you can go and open that particular image. And you can, maybe you want to save as, so you don't lose the original one, and save it as the same name, and you call it low res or something like that. And you could say image size. And here's where it's fundamental for you to know how we change the size of an image. There's several issues. Well, this height, the resolution, the width, and there's one thing which is called resample here. Well, in general, all of these are great to know. I'm going to cancel that first. How is this in reality? Because it's difficult. You're zooming in and you don't know, is this big or small? How is it seen? If you right click when you do a zoom here, Z, right click, there's one thing that's called print size. You can take a look at that. That's pretty much how it's going to print if you were going to put it at the real scale. But you can also have the 100%, which is pretty much the same. If it doesn't look good, if it has a lot of pixels, then you're in trouble because you can gain resolution. You can always lose resolution, but you can gain. But notice that this one, I don't even see the pixels, so I'm good. I can actually reduce the resolution of this one and I will be fine. I can go to image size and change either the resolution or the width and height. Normally you want to keep this log and you can just reduce this to a smaller size. You say, okay, it will change the size. And you can go again to zoom, right click, or 100%, or print size. And if it looks good, you're good to go. And as I do that, I'm reducing the resolution clearly. If you have an image that has here 300, and you're only placing that image very small in the panel, you can go back as down as 72. I wouldn't go lower than that. If it's a large image and you want to place it big on the panel, I recommend that you keep it as 300. Okay. And normally have it as resample. I think it's in automatic. I think it's a good option to have those. So you can save it. It will be now low res. Then you can just select here the InDesign and just replace it, no? So you can go to links, as you know, and relink. And you can select the new one I created under links, which is low res. It's a PDF, so I should actually make it a JPEG. PDF is, sorry, a PSD. It's going to make it much heavier. So always have it as JPEG. Again, low res, open, and they change. And basically you have lower significantly the size of those images, therefore of the final PDF. So that's one way. Normally it's a little bit slow process because you not only have two images like I have, you normally have like 30 or 40 images, whatever it is. So, you have to be, careful about changing every image that goes beyond 20 megs and is clearly affecting the size of your panel. Okay. Okay, so more. The other way that it's a bit faster to reduce the size of a PDF, it's as simple as saying file, and then you have save as other. Maybe your PDF is slightly different, but just search for the reduce size PDF option. Okay, that's going to give you an option of you want to select. You can take it to Adobe 4 as the smallest possible size, and you say okay, and it's going to try to save it as, and then you can rename it something like low to make sure you don't overwrite the previous. Sometimes it changes significantly. You might go from a 300 max to 23, which is crazily is very much an improvement, but sometimes it just goes down just a notch. And all depends on what type of drawings you have, what type of images you have, et cetera, et cetera. But that step is quite nice to actually elaborate. Another option is also to say save as other, and I will use this as the last option, is the optimize PDF. And this is a bit more sophisticated. You can change some of these parameters, which is basically densities of images, and this will affect considerably the resolution of your images. So be careful with that. You can take these ones a little lower, never lower than 72. But again, be careful because your images will be affected just a bit. You can always say low here, but just as a last resource, I will use this one. I will definitely try first the other two options I'm talking about. And that's how you reduce the size of a PDF. There's another way that you can use clearly. Most of the, when you do a PDF from Revit, what you're keeping is the vectors and therefore the layers and all that information, which tends to be heavy. So you can actually do print. From PDF, you print, and you print from PDF as a PDF. So it's almost like print a PDF from a PDF kind of thing. Here, what matters is that you, under the properties, that you keep it here the standard. You can go to smallest file size, but be careful that may resist. But if you just leave it as standard as it is, it will actually make a significant change, I think, as well. Don't click on fit, because that will change the size of the elements in your panel. Keep it as actual size, and just make sure that the size here, it's exactly the size that you want. Okay, now it's tricky. For letter size, it's very simple, but when it's 22 by 34, whatever other size you're using in a studio, it's a little tricky. You have to go to properties, and here is where you have to search for the particular size that you're working on. Notice that you have some here. Those are sizes that I have created. So how do you create your own size if you're working with a funky size for studio for the future? You can say add, you call it low, you give it a name of whatever it is. Normally what is best is to give it the name, 23 by 75, whatever it is. And then here you actually change it, no? 23, 75. You say add modify. It should appear here, 23 by 75. Say okay. And here's what happens. For some reason, the first time you do it, it never changes this number. It's a PDF, it's a picky guy. So you go back to properties, search for it again, 2375, okay, and now there is. Here. Notice how funky this guy is. And then you print, and it will basically look exactly the same as what you have. But in the process of printing, you get rid of layers. You get rid of some parts of the PDF that are heavy. So again, you will have two PDFs that essentially look the same, but one is lower size and the other one is much heavier file. So all this process of printing is only to get the same thing with a lower size of a file. Let me stop that.